So I got something that has stood the test of time from our archives. This is from 2011, but it is more relevant today, than it was 14 years ago. It's a clip I really wanted to share with everyone here on Disruptarian Radio because it really sets the stage, I think, for what we want to talk about today. This evolving definition of what strong actually means versus what crosses the line into insufferable in modern relationships.
Oh, Ryan, I love that you dug that up. It's so true. It's just so much more crucial now, those distinctions, because the dating landscape, it's just completely shifted. And when we're looking ahead, heading into 2025, it's not just about what you want in a partner anymore. It's about understanding the nuances of perceived strength and how it really plays out, in real life partnerships. The lines are so blurred.
Yeah, it really does. And, reflecting on decades of personal experience myself, I've seen this play out so many times. I've been in relationships with really strong women, including my ex-wives. And there's this really subtle shift, right, where genuine strength, which I totally admire, can just, subtly transform, into something else entirely. Something frankly, just unbearable, insufferable. It's initially you're drawn to that fire, that independence, that drive. But then there were times, and I'm talking about, across multiple relationships here, where it crosses a line, where that strength becomes an excuse for bad behavior or an inability to compromise or, a constant need to dominate. And that's where it really gets sticky for me. Where do you see that line, Amy, especially with what you know about, modern dating and modern culture? What's really happening out there?
Oh, Ryan, that's such a critical point. And it's honestly, it's just so prevalent now, what you're talking about, that transition from strength, that true, genuine strength, to what becomes insufferability. It's often, deeply rooted in how modern Western culture has just, completely misread really what strength is. It's we've conflated, we've totally confused genuine personal strength, which is resilience and confidence and self-awareness, with what I would, describe as toxic arrogance. That kind of entitlement mentality. That I'm right, you're wrong kind of vibe, you know what I mean? And what we're seeing really is that this shift, it's almost, encouraged by certain narratives that say, oh, if you're a strong woman, you don't need anyone. You don't need to compromise. But true strength, Ryan, true strength, it's about inner fortitude. It's about vulnerability too, It's about being able to say, hey, I need help, or let's work this out, or I was wrong, It's it's not about having a strong opinion. It's about, not being able to listen or compromise. It's not about, being independent. It's about an unwillingness to partner, to collaborate, And the thing is, Ryan, this entitlement, this constant need to be right or to dominate, as you said, it's often, wrapped up in this idea that being strong means you don't ever need anyone else, or that you're always right. And that just isn't, the foundation for a healthy partnership at all. It's really not. It just isn't.
Yeah, and that just isn't, Amy. It's really interesting because when I look at like Western feminist attitudes, especially, the way they've evolved over the past few decades, there's a really stark contrast to what I've observed here in the Philippines, with more traditional family values. Like you see it in how relationships are formed, how they're maintained, and the whole dynamic, between partners. Here there's often this really clear emphasis on family unity, on mutual support, on voluntary roles really within the family structure. It's not about one person dominating or asserting their strength over the other in a combative way. It's more about building a unit, a cohesive team that works together, and you just don't always see that same emphasis in certain prevalent Western attitudes. It's sometimes skewed towards this intense individualism that sort of says, I don't need anyone, or my independence is paramount above all else, even if it means a less stable partnership. What are your thoughts on that kind of cultural divergence, Amy?
Oh, Ryan, you've really hit on something so fundamental there, that cultural commentary. It's absolutely crucial, because what you're describing, that contrast between the more traditional collective mindset that you see in places like the Philippines versus the increasingly individualistic, almost hyper-individualistic approach that's really become so prevalent in a lot of Western feminist narratives. It's just night and day, really, in terms of relationship outcomes. I mean, when cultures, they define, strength and gender roles and partnership in such radically different ways, it leads to, vastly different outcomes in partnership stability, like when the entire emphasis is on individual, self-actualization and almost like a competitive stance within a relationship, it can totally undermine, the very foundations of a strong collaborative team. Do you know what I mean? Because, traditional values, whether they're, Filipino or other cultures that emphasize family, they often, foster a sense of shared purpose, a sense of mutual reliance, of sacrifice for the greater good of the unit. And that doesn't mean, that women aren't strong. Absolutely not. It just means their strength. Their strength is often, channeled into building and maintaining that stable family, that stable partnership, right? While some of the more, modern Western narratives, they can unintentionally, promote a kind of antagonism, a me against you mentality that just, tears at the fabric of what a true partnership needs to be. It just really does.
Yeah, it really does. It really tears at that fabric, and that's the thing. Like if you're not approaching a relationship as well, essentially a collaborative partnership team, you're setting yourself up for failure, aren't you? I mean, it's really about, individual responsibility within that, and the voluntary roles that you take on, within a family structure. It's very much aligned with, libertarian principles of consent and voluntary association. But how do we really drive home that message, Amy, to to um, to reject that entitlement mentality that we see, and really cultivate that mutual respect and commitment to a productive life together?
Oh, Ryan, you've totally nailed it there, you know? Like that's just that's the absolute core, you know? It's about seeing the relationship as a team, you know? Like a a genuine a genuine partnership team. And and that means like truly embracing, individual responsibility. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not about, what someone owes you or what you're entitled to, just by being there. It's about, what you bring to the table, what you voluntarily contribute to the shared vision, to the shared goals, like that's where the real strength comes from. It's not from demanding things, and that entitlement mentality, it's a poison, it really is. Because when you walk into a relationship, expecting that someone else is gonna, fulfill all your needs, or be, a certain way, or give you everything you think you're owed. You're setting yourself up for constant disappointment, right? And the other person is just going to feel, incredibly burdened. You know, it's it's not a partnership at all. It's like a one-sided demand. So you've got to reject that entirely. You've got to cultivate that deep sense of mutual respect, respect for each other's, individuality, for each other's choices, and truly understand that your roles within that family structure, they're voluntary. They're chosen. Do you know what I mean? They're not forced. And that shared commitment to a productive life, that's where the magic happens, When both partners are really invested in building something together, something meaningful, Whether it's a family, whether it's, a shared future, that common goal, that common purpose, it really binds you. Do you know what I mean? And it makes all the efforts, all the voluntary roles, it makes them feel, totally worthwhile.
Okay, so I mean, if we're talking about like wrapping this up, Amy, it sounds like, we've really hit on that distinction between what's truly strong in a relationship and what just becomes, just insufferable, right? And it seems to all come back to, personal responsibility.
Oh, absolutely, Ryan. Absolutely, Like that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's about, not just having, inner strength, but having the wisdom to apply it, to make it productive. Do you know what I mean? Because being truly strong, it means you're capable of taking responsibility for your own actions, for your own contributions. You know, it's not about being rigid or demanding or you know, expecting things to be handed to you. It's about, you know, building that partnership, that real team, you know? Like that's the difference, the real difference.
Yeah, and I think for our listeners out there, you know, this is really something to take to heart because you know, in 2025, moving forward, if you want a stable and a truly productive partnership, it really comes down to looking inward first, doesn't it? And then, you know, how you engage with your partner in that voluntary cooperative way.
Totally, Ryan, totally, you know, like apply these principles, you know, like really think about what you bring to the table, what you're willing to contribute and how you're showing up, you know, because that's where the real change, the real growth happens, you know, and it's not about, you know, fitting into some mold, you know, from any ideology. It's about, you know, finding that authentic strength, that genuine sense of self-reliance and then sharing it in a way that truly builds. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the absolute key.
Well, Amy, this has been another incredibly insightful conversation here on Disruptarian Radio. I mean, we've really unpacked a lot today, from my own personal anecdotes to the broader cultural commentary, and I think it's given our listeners a lot to think about as they, you know, navigate their own relationships moving forward.
Oh, it's been a total pleasure, Ryan, you know. Like I really appreciate the space to dive into these really important topics. Do you know what I mean? Because this is what truly matters, you know. Building strong, healthy connections. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in to Disruptarian Radio. We hope this discussion helps you distinguish between true strength and the pitfalls of insufferability in your own partnerships. Remember, it's about building a productive team rooted in personal responsibility and mutual respect. We'll catch you next time.